What's going on, guys? Tower number 9 here, and we are back with some more gameplay footage from the Asgard Brasilia Store Showdown event. So shout out to Asgard Brasilia for hosting this event and for SWDBR for putting up this footage. The original commentary is in Portuguese, so I am doing some English language commentary with permission on the games from this event. You can check out the previous one as a video I uploaded last week. This time, we're going to have a Palpatine versus Han match. On the left, we have, I believe, Samir, and on the right, Lucas Gomez. The names up top have not been updated, but will be in the course of this game. Let's get into it. So, Palpatine versus Han, both players using 30 HP bases. One of the things that I think about when I see this is that it tends to indicate the player is hoping for kind of a longer game relative to playing the Energy Conversion Lab. I personally am a fan of ECL, and I personally would probably try and play it if I were playing Han, but I know the 30 HP base is popular. For Palpatine there, using a 30 HP base instead of the security complex does make a lot of sense. The security complex is probably the base that's the easiest to have not do anything, because there are a lot of situations where you can give something a shield only to have it bounced or removed by something that doesn't care about it. And the extra 5 HP can be important for Palpatine to get to the late game. So the players are drawing on up, and we're going to see what happens here in this Palpatine versus Han match. It looks like there are one or maybe even two copies of the Falcon that we saw in Lucas Gomez's hand on the right, which is definitely something that I think you're excited to see as a Han player. Yeah, it looks like there are two Falcons there. The Falcon is a very strong card. Samir plays Inferno 4, looking at his top two cards, decide to whether put them on top or bottom. We see the Falcon hit the field, and I do think that our Han player jumped the gun a bit by playing the Falcon that early. His opponent had not yet finished resolving Inferno 4's effect, and showing the Falcon there provides additional information. Now, to be fair, Samir probably already had some of that information just by seeing Han use his leader ability to create a temporary resource on the first turn, but that could have been Ezra or Rogue Operative or something. Showing the Falcon does provide a little more information that might guide that decision with Inferno 4. And so then the Falcon swings in for 3 to the base rather than clearing Inferno 4. And now I think the players are maybe discussing how the interaction with Han's ability and the Falcon works. So the way that this actually does work is by the way this does work is that you can actually have the Falcon pay for its upkeep cost using the temporary resource that Han gave you before you defeat the temporary resource. So the temporary resource that Han provides is defeated, I believe, during the next turn, and paying for the Falcon occurs during the regroup phase of the current turn. So you can use this to, you ready your resources, you then pay the upkeep cost, and then when it comes time for the next turn, Han discards a temporary resource and discards the card that you just used to pay for the Falcon, allowing you then to essentially not lose a resource going into the next turn. Nice little synergy there between the abilities. So I think they're discussing that and have a judge come over. I believe they end up doing it correctly. A bit of an interesting interaction there, and something that allows Han to get extra value out of the Falcon, which I think is nice and characterful given, the relationship that those characters, or I guess a character and a vehicle, have in the lore. Okay, so now looking at the resources there, discard, pays there, and discards. Okay, now it is Samir equips, I believe that is a copy of Devotion. So that will give +1/+1 and restore 2 to Inferno 4, allowing it to survive a hit from the Falcon and do some potential healing. So we see a Fleet Lieutenant with the Falcon swinging in to Inferno 4 for 5. And this is actually a major rules mistake. Fleet Lieutenant has a when-played ability that allows the unit to attack, and if it's a rebel, it gets +2 power. So the Falcon isn't a rebel. and that attack should not have been able to defeat the upgraded Inferno 4. It looks like the players missed that, but this is something to know for potential future games. So this time, Lucas opts to bounce the Falcon back to his hand. Samir plays a takedown, clearing off the Fleet Lieutenant. Lucas then plays a Battlefield Marine, and then uses Han's ability to create a temporary resource, replays his Falcon, now undamaged, and swings into the base for another 3 points of damage. One thing that I'll note about this move is that it does mean that he gets to pay for the Falcon using the temporary resource that he created, which now means that he's in position to potentially play a 7-cost card this turn. One thing that is often very helpful for a Han player is the ability to, on the 5 resource turn, create a temporary resource, deploy Han, swing, creating another temporary resource, and then play a 7-cost card. But it looks like Lucas doesn't have one in hand. That Viper Probe Droid reveals a Surprise Strike, the second copy of the Millennium Falcon, and an Echo-based Defender. So probably we're going to see Surprise Strike plus the Echo-based Defender this turn. Falcon Surprise Strikes in for another 6. That's going to be 12 total damage. An Emperor's Royal Guard hits the field, and now we have Battlefield Marine still there. So the Emperor's Royal Guard is actually a 3/5 because it gets buffed by Emperor Palpatine. If you have Emperor Palpatine as your leader or your base, it gets +1 HP. But it doesn't have Sentinel because there isn't an official in play on the Imperial side there. So then the Marine is able to attack past the Royal Guard and hit the base for 3. The Echo-based Defender is also played, and it looks like Lucas isn't going to accelerate into Han on that turn. We'll see what he does on this turn. A bunch of resources used here for a Vigilance. Vigilance defeating the Echo-based Defender and healing Samir's base for 5, I believe. However, we then see a Fleet Lieutenant sending that Battlefield Marine into base for 5, redoing the damage that was just removed by Vigilance. The Emperor's Royal Guard attacks and defeats the Marine. The Falcon swings on in for 3. The Viper Probe Droid trades with the Fleet Lieutenant. Han deploys, swings in for 4, and creates a temporary resource. The temporary resource in this case isn't really going to be used for anything, I don't think. He could play a Falcon and discard the existing Falcon to do 3 more damage, but it looks like he's holding it back. However, one advantage of the temporary resource that Han creates there is that it does mean that he can use that to pay for the Falcon's upkeep, as we discussed earlier, and that means that he is going to have his full resources on this turn. So Lucas looking very ahead in this situation. We'll see what Samir can do to try to stabilize, but this is looking grim for the Emperor here. Let's see what Samir may try. 4 resources being spent here. 5 resources being spent here. It's going to be an overwhelming barrage, so 5 damage from the Emperor's Royal Guard. 4 is sent to clear the Falcon, and 1 is inflicted on Han. This also means that the Emperor's Royal Guard is now Strength 5 and can attack and trade with Han. Technically, the Emperor's Royal Guard actually isn't cleared yet, I think, because it has that extra HP. And then we see Home 1 hitting the field and bringing in the Falcon, bringing it back from the discard pile. So Home 1 is a 7/7 with Restore. I forget if it's 2 or 3. I think it might be 3, actually. But it also gives Restore 1 to all your other units, and when played, you may get a Heroism unit and play it from your discard pile, discounting it by 3. So used to bring back that Falcon, hit the base for 3, and Samir doesn't see an out and concedes the game there. Very convincing round 1 win here from Lucas Gomez. We're going to have to see whether or not Samir can do better in the next 2 rounds. And one thing that could help here, of course, is the sideboard. So players thinking about their sideboarding decisions here. In this game, Samir had some real trouble dealing with the pressure of that Falcon, though I do think that the misplayed Fleet Lieutenant early in the game, allowing Lucas Gomez to clear the upgraded Inferno 4, was a bit of an issue. The Restore 2 on that Inferno 4 could have potentially been quite annoying for Lucas to deal with, and, he kind of got that one. You can say, well, he could have used the surprise strike on it or something. I don't know exactly what he had in hand. It's possible he would have had another option. A waylay on it would also have been strong, but that isn't the way that play should be made. So I do want to highlight that for the viewers. The Fleet Lieutenant does not give bonus damage to the Falcon. All right, sideboarding decisions are being made here. I don't know exactly what is in these lists, so I'm not entirely sure what the sideboard is there. It looks like maybe Waylay being added by Lucas Gomez there. And let's see here. Okay. Now it's going to be Samir versus Lucas Gomez. If Lucas can win this, he will win the match. But he has to go up against Samir now, having seen some of what Lucas has to offer and incorporating some sideboard cards of his own. So we'll have to see how this one goes. Palpatine versus Han. Second game of the round. Shuffling up the decks here, and we're gonna get started. Looks like a odd hand there for Lucas. Probably gonna be a mulligan. I saw Leia Defiant Princess, but that's not really what you want to start with, and definitely not the Falcon or another amazing starting play, I think. So we're gonna see how things go in this mulliganed hand for Lucas. And I think Samir is doing the same thing. This game is relatively generous with its mulligan compared to some. I know in Magic the Gathering, if you take a mulligan, you actually lose a card from your second hand that you draw. And now, to be fair, in Magic, you can potentially take multiple mulligans, but if you do, the card disadvantage hurts a lot. And I think the one free mulligan in this game is a little kinder to the player. Although if you take that mulligan and end up without a starting play, you could be in some trouble. All right, so we're going to go ahead and see what happens here. Players are resourcing. I think I do see a Falcon there in Lucas Gomez's hand. I could be wrong. I thought there was a Falcon. There is an Echo Base Defender, so he has at least something. Once again, Samir leads off with Inferno 4. And yeah, there is a Falcon there. Temporary resource made. There's the Falcon and 3 damage to base. The start of this game is very similar to the start of the previous game. Let's hope that there is no rules mistake with the Fleet Lieutenant again this time. And let's see how this goes. Okay, 3 resources for Power of the Dark Side, forcing Lucas to defeat one of his units, and the only unit in play was the Falcons. The Falcons off the board. Lucas then plays Ezra Bridger, 3-cost 3/4, and when it completes an attack, you may look at your top card and either play it, leave it on top, or discard it. So nice little ability there, potentially providing some card advantage or some filtering, or just some information about what's coming next. Inferno 4 swings in for 2, and then we're on to the next turn. Ezra swings for 3 and plays a Bright Hope, a 2/6 Sentinel there. Samir plays a Super Laser Technician and activates Palpatine's ability, defeating the Super Technician to deal 1 damage to Ezra, and putting the Super Laser Technician then into play as a readied resource. It looks like he doesn't have anything to do with the resource, but he got the guarantee there. I think if he had left it on the field without attacking or using Palpatine's ability, there was a risk that Lucas could have used a waylay to bounce it. Okay, so here we see another super laser technician. Lots of ramp here for Samir, and once again Palpatine's ability used to clear it. And then we see a resupply as well. He's ramped 3 times, and Palpatine might actually see play on this turn. That's crazy. On the other hand, Lucas has hit his 7 cost combo here, searching his top 10 cards with a U-wing reinforcement for up to 7 resources worth of units. You can only have a maximum of 3 units, but bringing these in could be quite strong. Now, both the Bright Hope and Ezra are damaged, which means that when Palpatine deploys, he'll actually be able to take control of one of those units, potentially allowing him to get a very major power spike here. It's going to be a Bounty Hunter crew. An out of aspect bounty hunter crew hits play with that U-wing reinforcement and bounces the U-wing reinforcement back to hand from the discard pile, potentially allowing Lucas to make that play again. Samir deploys Palpatine and takes control of Ezra, who didn't get a chance to attack this turn. That means that Samir will now potentially get to use Ezra's ability, though I think its impact will be somewhat low because he doesn't have any resources left. Samir attacks Bright Hope with Inferno 4, then attacks Han with Palpatine, discards Inferno 4 to deal 1 damage to something. It looks like that's going to be 1 damage dealt to Han himself. And additionally, the Inferno 4 effect goes off, allowing Samir to look at his top 2 cards and send them to top or bottom. And Ezra still has yet to attack on Samir's side of the board. So Ezra could attack into Han and trade there. That might be the best use of him. Or he could just go for the base. Attacking the Bounty Hunter crew doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. I think the best play here is to trade Ezra for Han. And that's indeed what Samir does. So pretty strong turn there from Samir with the very aggressive ramp. Lucas is now in a bit of trouble, I think, though we do know that he will have we do know that he does have that U-wing reinforcement in hand and will potentially be able to play it, but I don't know. I mean, he'll have to use Han's ability to accelerate into that. I have to say, I think Bounty Hunter Crew wasn't the best find from the U-wing reinforcement there. You really want to hope to have more smaller units. Vigilance now played by Samir. It is being played for 6 because he doesn't have 2 Vigilance aspect icons, but it will remove the damaged Bright Hope while also using 5 healing for Samir. Oh no. And then a devotion on Palpatine, +1/+1 and restore 2. I don't think Lucas Gomez is going to be able to put enough damage to make it through this healing now, especially with Palpatine on the field and a major menace in the ground arena. That U-wing reinforcement is being played here. Let's see whether or not the U-wing reinforcement is going to bring in enough backup here to let Lucas somehow get this win. I don't know. I think he's pretty behind, but we'll see. Palpatine's taken 4 damage, so he has... Yeah, he's taking... Oh, that's nice. Okay, so we see... Exciting U-wing reinforcement there. Battlefield Marine, Leia Defiant Princess, and Akbar. So the Battlefield Marine hits the field, Leia hits the field and exhausts Palpatine, and then Admiral Akbar deals 4 damage to Palpatine. So Palpatine now close to being defeated. Okay. Lucas discarding a temporary resource there as we move into the next turn. That was a high impact U-wing reinforcement. I didn't think the first one was very good, but this second one got some results. So we're going to see whether or not Lucas can keep up the pressure here. I don't know though. I'm still thinking Samir has the advantage in this scenario, but we will have to see how this goes. An overwhelming barrage here would be pretty nasty, landing for 7 damage. So Palpatine is going to trade with... Okay, so Palpatine trades with the... he trades with the Bounty Hunter crew there. Wow, out of aspect. Another out of aspect card seen play here. It's going to be Bodhi Rook. Looking at the hand and discard a non-unit, that second copy of Vigilance is off the board. We do see an Avenger hitting play here for Samir, and Bodhi Rook, who had just seen the field, is now going to leave it. Lots of attacks now being made. Han once again makes a temporary resource in order to play a Fleet Lieutenant, buffing Akbar and doing some more damage, and the Leia and the Battlefield Marine also swing in there. A lot of pressure being put on Samir's base. 17 damage now taken, but I do think we saw a Reinforcement Walker in hand, which is potentially some major healing, and the Avenger is a big problem, I think, here as well. Overall, I think Samir is going to stabilize this, but we'll have to see how it goes. Vader. So Vader is going to ambush and defeat something, and then additionally, he's going to search the top 10 cards for up to 3 resources worth of villainy units and put them in. It's going to be a Viper probe droid, so we're going to get to see Lucas's hand here, Han Solo, and a surprise strike. That's a good hand. So Han here is probably going to ambush and defeat Vader. Vader takes out the Battlefield Marine. Han indeed ambushes Vader. Avenger attacks, and Akbar is the unit that Lucas chooses to lose there. 8 damage suffered by the base. Fleet Lieutenant into Samir's base for 3, and then Leia into Samir's base for 2. So I think we're on 22 damage for Samir, and Lucas's life total hasn't been updated here, but he's taken 9 damage on his base. Okay. A single surprise strike or shoot first could end the game here, but there's an overwhelming barrage on Avenger, and that's probably game. That's 10 damage. Wipes out those 2 units and damages Leia. So there is a surprise strike, but with Han off the board, the surprise strike isn't enough damage to win. It's only 5 damage, which means that Samir is still in this. I believe having now taken 27. So if there's a Falcon here, that could be the game. Avenger swings in. What does he have? It doesn't look like a Falcon. Spark of Rebellion. Another barrage in hand, chooses to take the Reinforcement Walker, but I think this is basically game. Without a Falcon to sneak in here, I don't think Lucas has a path to victory. Samir could have played this a little safer by potentially attacking with the Viper probe droid first, as that would have prevented a scenario where the Falcon is able to sneak in and get the win. If the Avenger was still... I guess he still had the other overwhelming barrage, though, so actually it doesn't matter. And yeah, it looks like that's... I don't know exactly what that was. It might have been a concession. It might have been Samir just saying, okay, I take initiative and then swing with Avenger and win. But one way or another, that's going to be a win for Samir. His triple ramp there enabled him to get Palpatine out very quickly and stifle Lucas's early aggression. Lucas came close to getting it even still, but with all that ramp and some good healing there from Vigilance, Samir was able to stabilize, and Devotion, also kind of a clutch card there, upgrading Emperor Palpatine himself, and the points of healing that Devotion provided really were really beneficial, I think, for Samir, as if he had taken just a little bit more damage, that could have been the game. Yeah, in fact, winning with only 3 HP left on the base means that if he hadn't had either the 5 healing from that Avenger, or I think he got 4 healing from 2 attacks with Devotion, though I could be wrong. If he hadn't had either of those, that would have been the game. All right. Overwhelming Barrage is a good card, it turns out. That is actually one of the strongest cards in the game, and if you have an Avenger or some other capital ship, you can get really big value out of it. But now we're going to go on to the third round of the match. 1-1. Whoever wins this match will win. Whoever wins this round will win the match. And Lucas, I believe, will be going first this time. Although going first is not always as much of an advantage for Han as for some others, as if you do use Han's ability on the first turn, you typically give up tempo because it takes an action to use Han's ability and put a temporary resource in play, so your opponent is likely going to be able to take the initiative from you. Still, having the initiative is probably better than not, and it will help if he has an early play like Battlefield Marine. Okay. Samir versus Lucas Gomez, round 3. Who will win this match? We are at 1.25x speed also, so that things go a little faster here. The players are not just incredibly hyperactive with their hand movements. And wow, once again, exact same start that we have now seen all 3 games. Samir leads off with Inferno 4. Lucas makes a temporary resource, brings in the Falcon, and swings for 3. And Samir with the initiative. Okay. And it's a make an opening this time, debuffing the Falcon, so it is now only a 1-2, meaning that Inferno 4 is in position to actually clear this Falcon. Let's see what happens here. The make an opening does also heal. Oh, but it's a waylay bouncing Inferno 4. So the make an opening is no longer going to be able to set up the Falcon actually being removed. Lucas then swings into base for 1 more. And the make an opening debuff goes away at the end of the turn. So I'm sure Lucas would have rather played something other than that waylay, but using it there saved his Falcon as well as slowing down his opponent. A system patrol craft now hits the field. Lucas responds with a resupply and swings the Falcon into the system patrol craft, 1 damage to both. Interestingly, does not use Han's ability there. I think I might have used Han's ability if I were in Lucas's shoes, just to get Han onto the field and start pushing more damage to the opponent's base. But that's not what he opted to do. Bounces the Falcon. 3 damage to base from the system patrol craft. He deploys Han. This is so risky. If there's power of the dark side, he'll lose it. No, it's going to be a resupply. 4 damage to base. Temporary resource made. He can now do a 7-cost card. Yeah, and there is the U-Wing reinforcement revealed by his opponent's Viper probe droid. Lucas hits the U-Wing reinforcement, hitting the 7-cost combo from Han. That is big. A risky play to play Han, to deploy Han there into a potential power of the dark side, which would have removed him immediately. But Samir did not have the punish there, and now we're seeing a wow. That's okay. What is he doing? So he brings out Akbar and 2 copies of Leia Defiant Princess. So I guess the copies of Leia here could be used to ready resources. Akbar kills the Viper probe droid. Yeah, so Akbar kills the Viper probe droid. He readies 2 resources with the 2 Leias, but one of them is then defeated due to the unique rule. And then he uses the 2 resources for a Spark of Rebellion, clearing Vader from his opponent's hand, it looks like. Interesting play there. I don't think I've ever seen someone use U-Wing reinforcement for 2 Leias in order to get 2 resources back, except in this game. That's an interesting little trick there. Okay, so Lucas is developing a strong ground arena. The system patrol craft is still defending the space arena for Samir. And it swings into the base here, inflicting 3 damage as the first action of the turn. Han in for 4 and a temporary resource made. I believe we now have 10 damage on Samir's base and 6 on Lucas Gomez's base. I think the top overlay hasn't been updated yet, but I believe it should be 10 with that swing for 4. Oh, wow. And then Bodhi Rook invalidly attempts to discard a reinforcement walker, but Samir puts it back and yeah, it does not work on units. So then discards the takedown instead. Inferno 4 discarded with Palpatine's ability to deal 1 damage to Han. And draw a card. 1 damage to base and 1 healing. And then we see a Power of the Dark Side, and Akbar is removed. 2 damage to base from Leia. And there's the Falcon. And the Falcon cleans up that system patrol craft. Falcon then returned to hand to save on damage, presumably. Samir is in some trouble. He's taken major damage to base. And he has no units on the board. I believe he will be able to deploy the Emperor this turn, but he does not have any damaged unit to take with the Emperor, which puts him in an odd spot. Let's see if he has something that can inflict some damage. I think it might just be the Reinforcement Walker, though. Yeah, Reinforcement Walker discards a Regional Governor to heal 3. 10 HP now. Another U-Wing Reinforcement from Lucas Gomez. Does Samir have to deploy the Emperor here without taking any unit? He might just need the Emperor on the field. You know, losing out on his ability is very negative, but losing out on the Emperor's ability is very negative, but and I think he erroneously put a card from hand into his resources there. I think, or maybe he was just looking at his resources. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so Fleet Lieutenant on Han, incorrectly doing 6 damage. They've misplayed that again. The Fleet Lieutenant does not give bonus damage to Han because Han is not a rebel. And the other card is a Bright Hope, which does not bounce anything. And then a temporary resource. Hang on. Let's well, we'll see. Depending on what happens in this game, I might watch that back to see what happened with the resources there. Leia defeated by the Emperor. A lot of damage coming into Samir's base. 20 damage on the base as a whole. He did have to deploy the Emperor with no capture, which is not what you want. It's unfortunate that they had the Fleet Lieutenant error again in this game. I might have, if Lucas takes this, I may have to rewatch that bit and see whether or not he put an extra resource in there. It sort of seemed like he might. And if he did, the Falcon couldn't be played here, but I'm not sure. Falcon now hitting the field and swinging, so that should be... They go to 24? I'm not entirely sure why it's 24. I feel like it should be 23, but I might be missing something. Maybe there was already damage that I didn't see on the second die. So a bit of an odd situation there. Samir in trouble now, but he could turn this around. Reinforcement Walker clears Han, discards an Avenger to heal 3. 3 to base. Ooh, and it does look like Lucas has drawn a resupply, which is not what he wants. He needs a barrage here, I think. Okay, a Vigilance is pretty good. Clearing a unit and healing 5. 19. 3 to the base. 22. The Emperor defeats that. Oh, nothing to play there for Lucas. I know he had a copy of Resupply, and I don't know what the other thing was. Change of Heart, capturing the Reinforcement Walker. That's a big play. Does Samir have an answer? Oh, he does, with a Vanquish on his own Reinforcement Walker. Not what you most want to do. Falcon swings in. I think Samir's in trouble. Takes the initiative. And then takes 2 more damage up to 27. I'm sort of rooting for Samir here because I hope that he does not lose from the improper scenario with the Fleet Lieutenant and potentially also other resources, but it's looking grim for him. Yeah, there's healing from the Reinforcement Walker. And then we see cunning, exhausting Palpatine buffing something, and that is the game. It looks like they give the win to Samir on the overlay, but I'm pretty sure it's Lucas Gomez who won. Maybe the names are reversed. I think it's the Han player who won there. Interesting situation. Okay, so let's watch that back and see if there was a play error with the with that one turn. I'm trying to figure out what happened here. So this is one of the advantages of doing this commentary with a video that's already recorded. So it looks like, okay, I think this is the right turn. Going into it, he has 8 resources. Yeah, he has 8 resources, 3 cards in hand. Plays the U-Wing. 8 resources, 3 cards in hand. Plays U-Wing. He's looking at the Falcon. Okay, he totally puts down that Echo Base Defender as a resource. That was in his hand, right? Am I crazy? Well, I don't have the player. I don't have the player audio, so I don't know exactly what went on. But it does look like Lucas Gomez erroneously put Echo Base Defender down as a resource there, and then he attacks with Han getting a 3rd resource. Thanks to Han's on attack ability, he gets a 3rd resource on the top of the deck, and having exactly 3 is what he needs to play the Falcon. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but it's let's watch that back again. It does seem to me that Lucas gained a substantial advantage in this game from play errors, unfortunately, with the Fleet Lieutenant. There's the Fleet Lieutenant scenario, and then there's whatever happens here. And I'm trying to rewatch this to figure out what maybe he hadn't resourced and asked his opponent, "Oh, do you mind if I resource?" and then resource that Echo Base Defender instead. That's not really how you're supposed to do it timing wise, but I've seen things like this happen before. Trying to figure out what happened there. Okay. So there we see his hand. Okay, so he gets rid of a temporary resource. Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to see if he resources before the Echo Base Defender situation. Yeah, he has 7. Okay, he totally resources Ezra. Yeah, so Lucas Gomez there resourcing Ezra. So he now has 8 resources in hand. Then he plays the U-Wing. So he should have 1 resource left. But here he's going to look at his hand, and he puts the Echo Base Defender down as a resource for some reason. And then he's going to get a 3rd resource from Han, which is going to allow him to play the Falcon. So I think, okay, so obviously this is the game as it was played on the day. I have no ability to intervene, but it seems like that's a substantial play error in favor of Lucas Gomez, because by making an extra resource with that Echo Base Defender, he's able to attack with Han, make a temporary resource, and then play the Falcon. I don't think that should have been possible, and he also got some extra damage from the Fleet Lieutenant this turn. Now, I don't speak Portuguese. At the end of this game, it does say 2-1 Samir. So maybe they saw this and the game was given to Samir because of an error, or maybe Lucas conceded at the end because he realized he had messed up, or it might just be an overlay error. One way or another, it does seem to me like there was a potential major play mistake from the Han player there that gave him a substantial advantage. So something to consider, and definitely people can make mistakes in these sorts of things, but it's interesting how watching it back you might notice something like that may not be noticed on the day. Anyway, so a bit of an odd result there. I think based on how the game was actually played, it seemed like Han won 2-1, but with substantial play errors in round 3 that benefited him, both with the extra 2 damage from the Fleet Lieutenant buffing Han, and then also from the situation there where he seemed to add an extra resource, allowing him to play both U-Wing Reinforcement and the Falcon. That is how it goes sometimes. If anyone in the comments is from the Brazilian community and has some more insight as to what happened, maybe they were hearing the original commentary and maybe they know what was going on with the overlay up there saying 2-1 to Samir, feel free to chime in and let me know. But yeah, interesting game. And that's gonna about do it for this one, guys. I'm curious to hear more if anyone has the answer to the mystery of what was going on there. But until next time, I think that's gonna do it for this one, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks to you all for watching.